Pauline Dixon is a reader in international development and education at Newcastle University. She spends her time going to countries, poorer countries, and looking at education systems and studying the benefit of private education versus what the state in many of these countries can provide. It must be depressing, but fascinating at the same time.
Actually, Bruce, I don't find it depressing. When I go into a slum area or a shanty town, I actually see all that is good. I see vibrancy, I see people not waiting for governments to do something. They don't read World Bank reports. They know this is their one chance. And I see entrepreneurship, I see innovation, I see competition, and I see free markets. So actually, I don't get depressed when I go into a slum area.
OK, but the particular slum areas you're looking at, you've been to India, you've been to parts of Africa. Give us some stories.
So in India, the work that I've been doing is in Delhi and Hyderabad, so that's northern India and southern India. In Ghana, in Accra, just outside Accra. In Nigeria, in Lagos State, and in Kenya, in Kibera, in the slum there.
And these governments will, I'm sure, intend providing adequate schooling. Are they failing, or is the schooling simply inadequate?
They're failing and it's inadequate. And that's why parents have been voting with their feet away from the state system, and these low-cost private schools have grown organically within the communities themselves through entrepreneurs noticing that these children need an education and they need it now. And so parents have been transferring their children from the government system to the low-cost private schools.
Is there the risk of abuse in the system as well? Because you could be, as an entrepreneur, setting up a complete farce of an education system. The parents wouldn't necessarily appreciate that it's a farce until it's too late, based on the fact that they don't necessarily have the skills to assess. Or am I being Western and patronising?
You're being Western and patronising.
Which is good and fine,
Yes,
so correct me.
So I will correct you. These parents love their kids just like anybody else, and they want the best for them. Parents who are illiterate, who live in slum areas, who may drive auto rickshaws or they may be labourers, can actually choose these low-cost private schools. There are so many of them down every alleyway. There might be 5 or 6 schools that they can choose from within their area. And they actually physically go and look at the schools. They might know the school owner. He might go to their church. These aren't fly-by-night schools. These schools have been set up 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And parents aren't going to just go to a school that's just started up. They actually physically go, they find out where their neighbours' children are going. They look at the books, they see how many times they're marked. If parents are going to spend their money, their well-earned money, they want that school to be accountable to them. So they're handing over their hard-earned cash. They're not going to be ripped off. And if they are going to be ripped off, that school's not going to last for very long. And
that's the point, isn't it? Because people who spend their money wisely will assess that money very carefully.
Exactly.
When you look at that environment, though, the sacrifices that parents are prepared to make in order to educate the children, that can be as inspiring as it must be heartbreaking sometimes.
Yes, it can, and parents on a minimum wage would spend about 6% or 10% of their wage to send one child to a low-cost private school. These private schools charge perhaps £2 to £3 per month, which is about 30 to 50 rand per month. But, you know, spending 6% of your income to send one child to a school is a commitment. But their children are their commitment, and they know that if they get an education, not just sitting in a government school not doing anything, but these schools operate from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock. The teachers are dedicated, the school owners are dedicated. They need these children to get an education. There's so much competition that if they don't provide that education, then those parents can take their children away from those schools and choose another one.
Let's look at the other side of it, the entrepreneurial side of it. How good are these businesses? Because the fees aren't excessive. They must be low-margin businesses at best.
They make a profit and they make a surplus. Their teachers get paid about a quarter of the salaries of teachers in government schools. Obviously, there's no unions within the private sector, but the teachers are very willing and very committed to those students because they're from the communities themselves. But these are businesses. They do make a profit. They've got to be sustainable. If they don't make a profit, they can't plough that money back into their schools. And because there's so much competition, they actually want their school to be better than the school next door.
You get what you pay for, and if you're paying a teacher a quarter of what the teacher might get in the public sector, well, then what are you getting for your money?
Teachers in the low-cost private schools don't have a trained teacher certificate, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It depends how good the teacher training is. The entrepreneurs typically do their own teacher training when somebody new starts, and these teachers often have a degree and they might want to stay in the school for a year or 2 years, or it might be a committed mother who can speak English already or is very good at maths.
Okay, so there are benefits to these schools. Who's regulating them? Do they need to be regulated?
I'll just go back to the benefits first and then we'll go to the regulations if that's all right. So the research that we've done, apart from wandering around in slum areas and plotting all of these schools on maps, and the reason we've done that is because there are unrecognised and unregistered schools. So the lists that people have, the government have, aren't complete. So that was one of the benefits of our research, because we found schools that nobody knew existed. But we've also tested 32,000 children around the world, 4,000 children in each place, and we tested them in maths, English and another language. And then we gathered data on their family background and their IQ as well, so that we could control for IQ and control for family background. And then we used these statistical techniques called multi-level modelling, or the Heckman-Lee two-step procedure, in order to equalise the children out. And we found in each place that children in these low-cost private schools outperformed children in government schools in every single subject. And it could be that these children are at least 1 to 2 years ahead of children in government schools.
How do governments respond then to this data? Because it makes them look pretty bad.
They've been really interested in the data, especially in Nigeria, where we presented our research. And in Nigeria, what the governments had wanted to do was close down these schools. But once we told them that the facilities were just as good as government schools, these children were doing really well, then they've been allowing these schools to continue, and they're not under such threat of closure.
Which country is doing it best? Where are you seeing the best application of this private schooling model, low-cost private schooling model? Is there a standout example?
I mean, my favourite country is India. I keep going back to India, and really I want to help those people who can't access education through targeted vouchers and improve the quality of the schools. But, it's the same in Africa. Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, these entrepreneurs are making a difference. They're making a difference to these children's lives, and it's something that should be really supported and celebrated.
What is your assessment of South Africa's position when it comes to this kind of low-cost private schooling model?
Well, I haven't done any research here in South Africa myself.
First impressions.
I've read the reports by CDE, the Centre for Development and Enterprise, and they have done some research in Gauteng, Eastern Cape and Limpopo. Are you going to translate that for me?
Gauteng, the Eastern Cape, and Limpopo. That's fine.
Limpopo. I'm getting there. And they found 31% of schools were low-cost private schools. They found, I think it was 83 low-cost private schools in those areas. And as I say, they were charging a maximum of 7,500 Rand per year and a minimum of 2,500 Rand per year. So they do exist in South Africa.
And we don't even know about them. Thank you, Pauline Dixon, for coming from Newcastle to teach us about our own private schooling system. Pauline Dixon is a reader in international development and education at Newcastle University.